Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Enlightened Investor. We got Mike Mahoney back from on assignment. Welcome back.
No, I just changed my life, Josh. I'm working remote now, and
Oh,
I'm back now. So
you're working
we
remote.
got to figure out how to do those videos next winter where I'm working remote.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Well, you look good.
Yeah, thank you.
So I hope you guys are enjoying the weather. It's spring finally here in Peoria Heights, Illinois, and we're going to talk today about international investments and diversification. And there's a lot of, it shouldn't be a lot of controversy, but there is. We're going to talk about the benefits of international diversification and investing, and also maybe some why people push back on it. And we were just talking before that some people don't like to invest internationally because they can't go around and drive to it and touch it, right? Like I invest in that bank down the street, I can go drive by it. But then again, 40% of all S&P 500 sales and revenue are in foreign countries.
Right.
So maybe that's even another argument against investing internationally, because if you just invest in the S&P, you got a 40% exposure. But so what's the take on it, Mike? I mean, what's Harry Markowitz? Yeah, what's the take on it?
Well, it's a free lunch, right? As we were talking earlier, Harry Markowitz won the Nobel Prize for modern portfolio theory a long time ago. I mean, diversification comes in many factors. I mean, the primary level, I guess, it's stocks and bonds. And when we talk about stocks and bonds, we're talking about, we don't say invest in individual stocks. We're talking about investing in well-diversified ETFs that are either indexes or asset classes that own thousands of securities. On fixed income, we're owning investment-grade fixed income. We're not owning corporates, et cetera, individual bonds like that. But the key is you can diversify not only amongst stocks and asset classes, you can diversify internationally too, right, when you're talking about stocks. And it's very common when I see people that come to me and I think it's a bias with the advisor and with the investor at times, depending whether they use an advisor, but they don't want to own international. It's risky. And especially if you look at international the last 10 years, I've even had clients asking me, why do we own this international? Because it's done poorly compared to U.S. But all you got to do is step back a decade prior, and they call it the lost decade. And international did, if you're looking on just large, international did a little bit better, and we'll put the data up there. But then if you look across other asset classes internationally and here in the U.S., you picked up a huge difference. I mean, I think the S&P for that decade was down like 2% or close to 2%.
Small, yeah.
Compounded. And then, but if you look at a well-diversified portfolio, and you'll see the data up there, it was up like 7% compounded, but the total return was a difference of like minus 10 versus plus 70 for a decade. So that's huge. And, looking forward, we'll show the data for expected returns going forward from Vanguard they provided against expected returns. But, they show close to 2% forward-looking returns for international over U.S. And we know, as we mentioned, maybe it's it's a valuation story, but also you just use the math. It's regression to the long-term average. Since they're below average for quite a while.
Sure. And I think that's kind of one of the stories is that, like, in the 70s, 80s, and maybe 2000s, we've had some some better returns on international, but in general, over the long haul, international hasn't underperformed tremendously. Like you might have heard of some of these blogs, but it's underperformed. But it does do a lot of things for you. Like it lowers your volatility for sure.
Right. We'll put that data up there. Vanguard shows they've got data on that where it shows like between 20 and 50% allocation to international lowers your volatility. And again, like we just showed you, 40% of the global capital markets are international anyway. So if you're looking at building a portfolio, I guess a great place to start is say you're 60% equities, 40% fixed income. So if we want to be globally allocated, 60% of that equities is 60% of the account is equities. So 60% of that 60 you want to have in the U.S. So that'd be 36% of your equities U.S. And then the remaining 24% international. Again, you can do that really easily with well-diversified ETFs or asset class ETFs, and very low cost. And there's that 40% that's out there international. That's 18,500 companies that you're not investing in if you just stay here in the U.S.
That's right. And, and can we talk a little bit about also these biases that Americans have? We've got...
I don't know if it's just American. Well, it's Americans over the international, right? But yeah.
Home bias.
I'm assuming the Canadians do it, and so do the Europeans, right? Everybody has home bias. And we even do it with individual stocks. We like our Caterpillar or whatever, right? But I would say, home bias is we tend to like what we know. So if we're in the U.S., we like the U.S. We don't know the international, but the other bias that comes into play, which we talked about, is recency. I mean, if you look at the last decade, U.S. stocks have done much better than international. So why do I want to own international?
Right.
Talk to me in 10 years. You'll probably understand why.
Like it.
Yeah.
Kind of like the Kathy Wood story, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So talk a little bit about. We haven't talked on this at all. What about international bond exposure? Is that something that, another thing, talk about bonds. Also, how about like your ex-China funds?
That's a good point. I didn't talk about that because one thing, I did make a change to all my client portfolios. We used to use an international fund that had exposure to China. And for me, it was just a moral decision that I don't want to invest in China because I don't like, they're not a friendly company to their country, to their people. But also, when you think about it, how can you have capitalism in a communistic society? I mean, I'd read a book a couple years ago which kind of prompted me to totally make the move. And it was basically, they were talking about how they're really pulling back on a lot of these people that become billionaires and reining in capitalism. So it's like the system, to me, seems rigged. So I just prefer to avoid it, and I think most of my clients agreed. So I do that, but
got it.
You don't have to. If you want China, you can get some exposure still.
Yeah. So we recommend Red Roulette. That's what the book you're talking about.
That was the book, correct? Thank you.
That one. So.
And as far as bonds, you can buy international bonds. I mean, I technically don't do that because we buy. If you're going to do that, I would assume you're going to use a bond ETF that's diversified. We buy all of the bonds, fixed income in this country, and typically we're either buying treasuries or we're buying CDs, brokered CDs, because the yields are the best.
Yep.
There are times when we use munis, investment grade, but the yields aren't their tax equivalent yields right now. So
right.
Yeah.
So any last words for our viewers here, Mike? On
no, it's good to be back. Well, I want to talk about Bradley. What a great season for the basketball. I got to shout out to Bradley basketball this year.
We had so much fun, folks. If you ever get a chance, go down to the Carver Arena down here in downtown Peoria. Such a great experience down there with the fans. And my daughter sells 50-50 tickets, so that's kind of fun as well. So go Braves.
Yeah.
Glad to have you back, guy.
Good to be.
All right. This is the Enlightened Investor Team. Signing off. Take care.